Hey folks, this class is primarily in voice, though I'm using a note card reader as well. I hope everybody can hear me. We also use a texture board at the front that you can follow along on. Please click on the Firestorm class notes and first aid kit box. It's got some t-shirts for us to give out as well as a bunch of other stuff, including the class notes for all of our classes. These notes get updated semi-regularly, so if you haven't been here in about 7 weeks or so, you might want to grab a fresh copy out of that box. If you're having any trouble reading the text from the note card reader, open up your preferences with Control P or Avatar Menu Preferences. Go to the Color tab and change the color for objects to something more legible for you. If you need to adjust individual voice volumes, go to the COM menu in your upper bar. Go to Nearby Voice, and that opens the Nearby Voice panel. From there you can adjust individual volumes by slider. That's not the only way to get to that panel, but it's the easiest one to explain. So before we get started, I would like everyone to look at the Help menu. Now, if you've been to our classes before, you know this, but if you haven't, then here you go. Did you know that all menus and submenus detach and stay open if you click on the double lines at the top of the menu? We like to mention this at pretty much every class because it makes it a lot simpler to check or uncheck options and to remember and uncheck anything you happen to click on, either by mistake or to see what it does. So once that is torn off, you can move it around the screen, you can check stuff, uncheck stuff, it's not going to go away on its own. There are a couple of things that we like to mention in the Help menu. One of them is the Firestorm Wiki link, which most people can access simply by pressing F1 on your keyboard. If you're on a Mac or some PC laptops, you may need FN F1 instead of just the F1. We have a lot of documentation there and a troubleshooting section that has answers to most of the problems that people experience. We like to use it as a first stop for just about anything. The other thing that we want to point out is About Firestorm. This is the last item in the Help menu. This opens the About Firestorm window, which shows your sysinfo as well as the credits and licensing information for the viewer. Team members and only team members have the ability to ping you for the sysinfo in an IM. You will get a request to send it. It shows up in your IM and it shows up as a big old pop-up. So please allow this info to be sent. It can help us solve your problems. We're not just asking for it to be nosy. If we were going to do that, we'd be asking you about your high school boyfriend or girlfriend, what you dreamed about last night, what's your pet's name, blah, blah, blah. No, we're actually asking because it's helpful. So without further ado, welcome to our Firestorm Prefs 101 class. This is going to be based on our 4.0 release, which is called FUI, sometimes pronounced FUI. If you're on an older release, don't panic. Most of this will apply to you too. You can update at a later time. We'll be going over some of our preferences. Particularly, this class covers the general, colors, chat, and privacy tabs, not necessarily in that order. I will try to explain what they do and make suggestions as to what we suggest for some settings. In most cases, there won't be any specific recommendations because it's just a matter of what works best for you. The reason that they are preferences is that most of them are strictly a matter of preference. If you have any questions about the topic that we're on, please put them in local chat. Text is best during the class, and we will answer as soon as we can. Please wait until after the class to ask off-topic questions. We're usually around for a half hour or more after the class. That is also the time to be on voice if you prefer to be on voice. So text during the class, please. If you're uncertain about whether something is off-topic or not, you can go ahead and ask, but please don't be offended if I say we're going to have to get to that later. Control P or Avatar Menu Preferences opens up the preferences, and we're going to start on the General tab. Starting with Language Default, this lets you choose System Default or the language of your choice from the drop-down menu. System is generally what the default language is on your computer. I want to access content rated. This is going to allow you to choose what maturity level of content you're able to access in World, and the probably familiar options are general, moderate, and adult. This allows you access to all content. Adult is part of that, which means you got to be age verified to enable this option. You do that on your SL dashboard, not in the viewer anywhere. General and moderate lets you access general and moderate content if you're not age verified or if you just want to screen that stuff out. And general limits you to just general content. The Start Location drop-down menu allows you to choose the default login location showing on the login screen. Your options here are My Home or My Last Location, but we would recommend having Show on Login checked right here. Check this to enable the login location picker on the login screen. It is enabled by default, so don't uncheck it or anything. You also want this enabled to use a great feature on the Privacy tab. I'll mention that again when we get there, but even without that awesome feature, it's still a smart idea to have your options open to you about where you log into. Name tags. Here you choose how you display residence tags on your screen, and for the most part these options are going to apply to what you see, not what others see on you. So off, of course, makes it so you're not seeing tags. Why would you ever want to do that? Well, sometimes they get kind of crowded, and if you've got hover tips on, you can find out who the person is by hover tipping them anyway. But also, the more you render on the screen, your slower your performance is. And well, granted, having name tags up probably isn't going to be as much of a drain on your performance as, let's say, maxing out your draw distance or running shadows or something. But if it's something that you don't mind sacrificing, it's up to you. You might as well turn them off. On means tags will always be visible, and show briefly shows the tags temporarily. They'll go away after a few seconds and until the person is out of and then back into your view at a later time. You can enable or disable the following. My name. When this is checked, you're not going to be seeing your own tag. This is for your view only. Others still see it. There is no way, shape, or form that you can make your tag invisible to other people at your end. If they're choosing to see your tag, they're going to see your tag. Group titles. Unchecked hides all group titles. View display names. When checked, this shows display names. Uncheck it if you are not a display name fan. Highlight friends colors tags of those on your friends list differently from those not on your list. This color varies from skin to skin, but for most skins it's a sort of highlightery color, like that yellowish greenish kind of highlight. Usernames, when this is checked, it shows usernames. If you only like display names, you can have this unchecked if you want. Take note, though, that you can have either usernames or display names or both enabled, and this is not just for tags. Yes, it is in the tags section, but this affects all instances of names in the viewer. So you can't just choose to have them, one of these kinds hidden on tags and then want to see it in chat or on radar or something. It doesn't work that way. Anything that is disabled here, you will not be able to see anywhere else. Hide own group title allows you to hide your own group title from yourself. Others will still see it. Legacy names instead of usernames. This is about format, not about information. So this shows legacy names, which is first name, which is usually capitalized, space, capitalized last name, instead of usernames, which is lowercase first name, dot lowercase last name. This requires usernames being enabled, otherwise it won't do anything at all. Away timeout will set you to away if there is no mouse or keyboard input for the minutes set. Your choices are 2, 5, 10, 30, 60 minutes, and never. And log out after being marked away will log you out after being away for the number of minutes you set here, and your choices are going to look pretty similar. 2, 5, 10, 30 minutes, and never. And then you've got sit when away. This will sit your avatar while you are in away mode. This can be useful to avoid either playful friends or griefing. One of the places I hang out has a penalty box, like a hockey kind of penalty box that people like to push away avatars into if they've been left alone for a while. Sitting when away can prevent that kind of playfulness, or more importantly, that whole griefing thing. Extras. This is the stuff in the upper right corner of this tab. Use web profiles by default. This displays user profiles as web profiles rather than in a profile window. Web profiles are the V3 style web profiles. You may already be seeing them if you're in V3 mode. You probably aren't if you logged in on Phoenix or Firestorm mode. However, web profiles are nonetheless going to show up in the web tab of the old style profiles anyway. So you get two kinds of profiles in one, but only if you're not using the web profiles by default. If you are using web profiles by default, that's all you're going to get. Pressing letter keys. Note that this is the same setting we're about to see again when we get to the chat prefs, but your options are Start Local Chat or Affects Movement, as in WASD keys. You need this option enabled if you want to use the letter keys for movement. So whether that's the WASD keys or C, E, F, and M, all of those, if you're not just trying to type with them, will require you to have WASD selected here. Are there any questions on this tab before we move on? I do see typing, and it is a no thanks all clear typing. Cool. Alrighty, so on to the chat tab with the general subtab. Chat window font size. You get to choose small, medium, or large for that, and on-screen console font size, same options. What's the difference? Console, whenever you see the word console in a chat context, what it refers to is the on-screen scrolling text that goes up the left-hand side of the screen. It's not in any kind of window, but it has a background that is sort of like a bubble background, kind of like you have on the background of your tag. So you can choose either, choose your size options for either of those. You can enable or disable the following. Play typing animation when chatting. Your avatar will play the typing animation when chatting in local with this enabled. So there's no need to go digging around in debug settings anymore, or for Pete's sake, I hope no one's still using those stupid type killer things. This option is right there in preferences for you to turn off if you don't want that typing animation to take place. Play avatar animations, for example, shouting and whispering. If you don't want to see your hands go to your face and your body leaning back when you're shouting, you can turn that off. Hear typing sound type in local chat. Enable this if you want to hear the clickety-clack. Disable if you don't. It's only going to be playing if they are using a typing animation anyway. So if you're not hearing, if you have it enabled and you're not hearing anything, well, they probably turned off their typing animation. Send typing notifications to other avatars during IM sessions. This will allow others to see that you are typing a response in the IM window. In other words, this turns on or turns off the so-and-so is typing text that appears at the top of the window. Personally, I like seeing when other people are typing. I like it when they can see that I'm typing, but you know, can't twist other people's arms into doing what I want them to do. So, email me IMs when I'm offline. This will send any offline IMs to the email that you have on file with Linden Lab. Remove chat headers. Makes chat look V1 style in one specific way. There are many things contributing to whether your chat is V1 or V2 style, but this is one particular aspect of it. It removes the V2 style chat headers, which look like a line above the actual chat, and includes the speaker's name and text on the same line. That is to say, V2 style chat headers have a horizontal line in your conversations window. It includes the person's name and optionally their icon and timestamp, and then the text is below that, and then you get another name with the next speaker, and then the text is below that. People who like this tend to feel that it makes the chat look clearer. People who don't like it think that it takes up tons of extra space that it doesn't need to. So if you like V1 style, have this checked. If you like V2 style, have this unchecked. When using chat headers, show mini icons. Shows the icon in the IM or group chat next to the name. If remove chat headers is enabled, this will not show even if enabled. In other words, there are no mini icons with V1 style chat. So this only applies if you're using the V2 style chat headers. Show chat in bubbles above avatars. This is bubble chat. It puts local chat in bubbles above users' heads. Some people like it, some people hate it, so do whatever you like there. Show typing indicator in bubbles above avatars. This sounds similar. It is totally different. This is not bubble chat here. This puts a typing indicator in a bubble above avatars' heads. So I'm going to go ahead and type for a bit, and you can see what it looks like. So go ahead and enable that. And if you have it enabled right now, you're going to be seeing, you know, my tag change, and you're going to see dots going on. That's what it looks like. I stop typing, and after a bit, it goes away. The text itself ends up appearing according to your settings. So text is here. There you go. Yeah, I love it too. I thought it was annoying when it first came out, but it's grown on me. I'm doing it again. Did you get to see it that time? Cool. Pressing letter keys, and here's your first moment. Starts local chat, or this is the same as what we covered in on the general tab of prefs. Why is it in both places? Because people look for it that often. They really do. As soon as WASD keys were not enabled by default in some logins for Firestorm, we got stormed with questions about how to turn it on. So we're making it as easy to find as possible. Show IMs in lets you choose to show IMs in separate windows or in tabs in the conversations window. If you're using tabs, well, that is you know, the V1 kind of thing where you've got all those tabs lined up. Separate windows is going to be V2 style or V3 style, whatever you want to call it, but those will not dock into the conversations window if you choose that. They only dock to their chiclets. Chiclets are the mini icons that appear in the upper right or bottom right corner to represent IMs that you have open. So, chat tab mode orientation allows you to choose to have your IM tabs either horizontal or vertical. So, if you prefer to have those tabs in the conversations window, those IM tabs across the bottom of the window, what you want is horizontal here. If you like them down the left-hand side of your conversations window, what you want is vertical here. It is vertical by default. You had both of those options in Phoenix as well, but there you had horizontal by default. You've got both options, just a different default. Personally, I prefer vertical. I lose track of a lot of IMs if I use horizontal, but I know there are plenty of horizontal fans out there. Chat Translation Settings button opens the Chat Translation Settings window where you can specify if you want chat to be translated and which service to use. Yeah, unfortunately there is no easy translation anymore. If you want translation to happen, you need to register for it with either Bing, which is free, or Google, which is not. And then, once you've registered for it and turned it on in there, the double chat bubble on the top of the chat window will toggle translation on or off. So on a similar note, if you ever find a line saying blah 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 app ID following lines of text in your local chat, that means that you accidentally turned your translation on. So click that double chat bubble to turn it back off. Any questions on this tab? Please go right ahead, Ecstasy. And generally speaking, you know, sometimes you don't know that you have a question until I ask, and in that case, you know, just go ahead and yell out before I move on. But if you know what your question is ahead of time, please feel free to type it and just go ahead and ask. Well, that's something we're going to have to talk about at the end of class if you want to troubleshoot that. I have no immediate answer for it. I'm not, you know, there may be, well, it's done at Bing's end. The viewer itself isn't doing that translating, so It may be something having to do with Bing availability elsewhere, but we'll talk about it after class again if you want. So I don't see any other questions coming. Now that we've gone over the typing indicators over avatars' heads thing, you know how I know if there are questions coming or not. So notification subtab. Enable incoming chat pop-ups allows group and/or IM chats to appear on screen in either console or toasts, whichever is set below. That is to say, if you don't want group and IM chats to appear any place besides their own windows, then have these unchecked. If, however, you want them to appear outside of the conversations window or IM windows, in addition to that, then you will want group and/or IM chats checked there, and then you decide whether to see it in one or the other in a setting coming up. Use console for chat pop-ups instead of floating toasts, which is Viewer 1 style. This displays chat in the on-screen left-hand console rather than in toasts. Actually, they may not be on the right-hand side for those toasts, but they are toasts. So do you want them scrolling in the bubble background, or do you want them in fading windows? Chat toasts will appear as fading windows. They are not the same as the console, they are not the same as the conversations window, and they're IM windows. I think this is the first time that the word toasts comes up in this class, so I'll explain that. The word toast, anytime you hear the word toast, you can think in your mind pop-up. Not all pop-ups are toasts, which is why we don't just call them pop-ups, but all toasts are a type of pop-up. Specifically, they're a kind of pop-up that pops up on your screen, but then they fade if you don't touch them in any way after a given amount of time. So that's your option for your option for local chat. Now for IMs and group chat, in Chat Console, if you want those IMs to show up in the on-screen console rather than in toasts, in addition to the conversations window, then have this checked. If you want them to appear in right-side toasts, then have these unchecked, but have those first checkboxes checked. Yeah, chat options are circuitous and labyrinthine and all sorts of other long words. They're complicated. Announce incoming IMs as soon as the sender starts typing. This opens an IM tab or window as soon as someone starts typing to you, rather than when they hit enter on their first line of text. So somebody opens an IM with you, you know it even before they finish typing. You know it as soon as they start typing. So they can start typing and you can be all, hi, and they'll be all, how'd you know? And you'll be, I'm sneaky like that. So that's what that does. Any questions on this tab? Looks like no. So next up we've got the Firestorm subtab. Chat and IM enhancements, : as a synonym for /me. This is used in role-playing. This allows the use of a : instead of /me to indicate an action or emote instead of a statement. For example, you can just type : nods in agreement, and it will appear as John Doe nods in agreement, if of course your name is John Doe. Note that there is no space between the : and the first word. So basically this is for saving you a couple of keystrokes if you want to use it. Emotes use italic font. This makes emotes show in italics. So this is at your end. This is not going to show up to other people. So this is about how you see the text. Auto-close, OOC parentheses, used in role-playing. When entering a message in RP mode, it is assumed that role-players are speaking as their character. If, however, they want to communicate something outside of their character, they might enclose their message with opening and closing parentheses, or brackets, as they're called in other countries besides America. When checked, the viewer automatically appends the closing parentheses to a message if it isn't present. For example, open parentheses, this is OOC, will result in open parentheses, this is OOC, close parentheses. So you get the whole package of parentheses in one shot without having to type the second pair. Add a chat bar in the nearby chat window. Does as the name implies, which sounds bizarre if you are used to using a V1 style viewer and if you have opened Firestorm in either Firestorm or Phoenix mode. But the chat bar in the nearby chat window isn't there in V2. So this was put in so that if you wanted it to be there, you would have this checked and it'll be there. If you uncheck that, then the only chat bar you will have is the one at the bottom of the screen, if you have that one showing. Show channel selection in chat bar enables the channel selector in the nearby chat bar. For if some kind of HUD or other object that you're going to be speaking to on a channel other than 0 for any extended length of time, it may be easier to change that channel rather than typing /number at the front of every single line. I find it very useful. Lots of people have no use for it, but if you do have a use for it, you will probably find it very useful. For instance, when I host trivia, I use a HUD that changes my text color on channel 2. So I just change the channel here to 2, and that means that I can just type away without, just type away, and it'll come out as normal. Otherwise, I would have to type /2 on every single line, and believe me, that gets annoying. However, just remember to change it back to channel 0 when you're done with it. Otherwise, you're going to try to speak in regular chat, and if you're not using that HUD, if that object isn't where it can hear you, it's just not going to show up. So you'll be typing away, and none of your local chat is showing up. So make sure that's on 0. Auto hide main chat bar. If this is enabled, then the chat bar at the bottom of the screen will close after you have typed something. Starting to type anything again will cause a... If you have selection keys on, the WASD selection and pressing letter keys on, and auto hide, however, then you'll need to hit enter or return before you begin typing in an auto hidden chat bar. So in that case, if you have both of those enabled, as I do, if you want to start typing in the chat bar at the bottom of the screen, you hit enter, then you say what you want to say, you hit enter again, and it closes up. Deselect chat after sending messages. This will move the cursor out of the chat bar after you send a message. Mark objects with no name when they speak to avoid spoofing. This allows object names in chat to be clicked so that you can get information about them, like the creator, owner, etc. It's useful in griefing situations. You've got some group chat options. Show group moderator messages in bold will show mods text in a bold font in group chat. That's usually a good way to be able to, it's usually a good idea to have that enabled. It's useful to know who your mods are. Disable all group chat. Prevents group chats from opening automatically when another user IMs the group. What if you want to disable some group chats but not all of them? Well, this is the only dividing line you've got for that. When received group notices is disabled, disable group chat as well. This will turn off group chat from any group from which you are not receiving group notices. Occasionally we get people saying, well, I've tried to disable group notices from this group, but it keeps coming back after I relog. There's a catch to it these days, which is that the group needs to fully load in order for that setting to stick. So if that has happened to you, you might need to go someplace quiet and load a very, very large group. That's why this is more likely to happen on very large groups than smaller groups. So make sure that group is loaded, then set your setting, then relog immediately to make sure that it sticks. Note that the viewer will receive group chat with these options turned on when a group chat tab is open for the group in the conversations window, but what the options do is prevent the automatic creation of a tab when a group message is received. To put that another way, you will still be able to open group chats manually, and setting this option will not cause a chat to close if you set it while it's still open. What it will do is make it so that if somebody else IMs the group, it's not going to cause it to pop open. Chat log extras, which is badly worded because only one option here even has anything to do with logs. There are actually options relating to nearby chat and IM timestamps and local chat logging. The chat log options are on the Privacy tab, and chat log locations are in Network and Cache. We will be covering privacy in this class. Hide timestamp in nearby chat does exactly what it says. It hides the timestamp in the nearby chat window. Do you want to do it for IMs? This is the checkbox for you. Hide timestamps in IMs. Show IMs in nearby chat window shows the text of received IMs in the nearby chat window interspersed with the local chat. It will be set up, the one distinguishing aspect is that it will have IM : at the beginning of every line. Save IMs in nearby chat enables logging of IMs along with local chat. It requires that local chat be logged. It also requires that the above checkbox be checked. And local chat logging is enabled on the Privacy tab, so we'll get there. Console. Use classic draw mode for console. This changes the chat console background so that it's surrounding all of the visible text rather than displaying separate backgrounds per line of chat. So that is solely an aesthetic difference that most people have probably never noticed. Use full screen width for console. This will allow the chat to be the full width of the screen, and it requires a restart. Personally, I don't like it extending the full length of the screen. This is one of the first things that I uncheck when I'm on clean settings. So yeah, if this is unchecked, then your console will extend about a third of the way across the screen for whatever screen size you've got. Fade chat after blank seconds and blank number of lines. If you find that your chat console if you like chat console but you find that it takes up way too much of your screen, you can reduce that by lowering these numbers. So this will allow you to choose how long the chat console shows and how many lines show up before fading. Are there any questions on this tab? I might be getting too excited. Alrighty, so next, thanks for letting me know. Next tab is the Radar subtab. Radar reports when avatars enter or leave chat range, enter or leave draw distance, enter or leave the region. I'm just putting all of these in chat at once. These will show in nearby chat when an avatar enters or leaves chat range, enters or leaves draw distance, or enters or leaves the region. So you can have whatever you like enabled or disabled here, depending on what you consider to be useful information and what you consider to be just spam. Keyword alert subtab. Yeah, that one was simple. I'm not asking for questions on it. But if there are any, just go ahead and type them out. Enable keyword alerts. This enables using keyword alerts. What are keyword alerts? Well, in a nutshell, keyword alerts are words, you're going to specify, if you choose to use this, you're going to specify words that you want the viewer to notify you about if they are spoken in nearby chat or in IMs, so let's say that you're one of those folks who doesn't really pay attention to nearby chat when you're in a crowded location. You're mostly sucked into IMs and you barely skim local if you're even looking at it at all. But that, of course, means that you miss it when people are addressing you directly in local chat. If that happens to you, then you might want to make your name the one of your keywords so that if somebody says your name in local chat, you'll have an alert triggered and you'll be alerted to it and you can ignore local chat the rest of the time. So look for keywords in chat and look for keywords in IMs and group chat. When checked, the alert system monitors local chat or IM and group chat areas for presence of these keywords. So you might want only local to be alerting you. You might want only IMs to be alerting you. You can have both. Note that because group chats are prevented from appearing when receive group notices is disabled, disable group chat as well, or disable all group chats are enabled, no alerts are triggered. I'll get to that very soon, Delinda. In other words, I'm going to translate this note. In other words, if the chat is closed, you're not going to be getting a keyword alert for it. It's not going to automatically open up just because somebody said your name. Keywords separated by commas specifies the list of words that will trigger an alert. They can be individual words or phrases, and they are separated by commas, and in most cases only commas. They are not case sensitive, but spaces count as characters. So that that means that if you include spaces in your keyword alert list, then those spaces will be counted as part of the word. So use that strategically. So for instance, Ed doesn't like to share his keyword alerts, his keywords, but mine make good examples. My keywords are my name, Letta, and Mac, because I'm Mac support, but I put a space after the word Mac. So, I put that. There's no space after Letta, or at the beginning of Letta, but there is a space after Mac, which, of course, that's not going to show up in chat. So sometimes people type, so the word Letta is going to come, trip off my keyword alert, but so is the word letter. But there aren't too many other words that come up with that sequence of letters, so I'm okay with that, and people typo my name as letter all the time anyway. So I'm okay with letter getting tripped. However, the word Mac, I put a space after because, yes, omelet, but how many, practically the only time people type omelet is when they're trying to trip off my keyword alert. So Mac, however, comes up in lots and lots and lots of words. Like the word machine is one that would come up all the time. So I put a space after it so that the word Mac is only going to trip off my keyword alert if it actually has a space after it when it comes up. Otherwise, I get all sorts of orange text that I don't want. So yeah, use spaces strategically. And so to answer Delinda's question, commas. Just commas, unless you want to use those spaces. Not semicolons. Semicolons aren't going to separate them. And so here are your keyword options. You can use color or you can use sound. If you want to use color, you enable color alert here, and when checked, any messages that are to be alerted will have their color changed to what is specified in the color selector. It's bright orange by default, but you can change it to whatever you want. If you want to use sound, you enable play alert sound. This enables playing a sound identified by the UUID. It has a default chime in there, just a generic chime, but if you want to change it, you can. And you do it on this line, alert sound UUID. You can supply the alert sound UUID here if you want to change it from the default. To get a new UUID, find it in your inventory. It has to have full perms, and then right-click the sound and select Copy Asset UUID from the menu. Then paste the value into the text box. And that's it. Any questions on this tab? It looks like we covered the one question there was. So moving on to text input. Enable spell checking. Enable this to activate spell checking in chat. At the same time, if you don't want all those red squiggles under everything, you can disable it here. That's where those red squiggles are coming from. Right now you've got your main dictionary options to select the language to use for spell checking. At the moment it is several flavors of English. So if you're British and you're getting tired of COLOUR being corrected, you can go ahead and change that for yourself. Enable autocorrect. Enable Firestorm to expand abbreviations and automatically correct commonly misspelled words. Yes, or if you're Canadian as well. So enable autocorrect. Autocorrect settings opens the autocorrect settings window. This feature is covered in full in our odds and ends 2 class, so we're not going to go over it here. However, it's a very useful feature. It's not like your, which one? Autocorrect or spell check? I don't use spell check, so I haven't noticed whether the no, autocorrect is just going to be for text, for chat, both local and IMs. So the autocorrect here is not like on your phone where you can make a very minor typo and all of a sudden you see your word changed into something completely different. This is fully customizable, and you can add stuff. So like earlier when I created that line that I was going to send out if people dropped into the class while we were recording, I was doing that through autocorrect. So if you want to know more, come to the class or ask us after this one. Come to the Odds and Ends 2 class or ask after this one. Moving on to the Privacy tab, General subtab. Clear History button. This will clear login, image, last location, teleport history, web, and texture cache. The purpose for this, we wouldn't recommend doing this too often. The purpose for it is, for instance, if you're if somebody else is borrowing your computer for SL and you don't want them to see all those things like your login image, last location, TP history, blah, 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 then you might want to clear your history before they use SL on your computer. Publish my avatar in search listings. When this is enabled, it allows anyone to find you using search. Yeah, we do skip a bunch of tabs here. We're not going in order. So yeah, your privacy tab is in the correct place. We're not doing the class in where most of these are covered in other classes. So when enabled, this allows anyone to find you using search, which they can do anyway if they know your full username. So even if you don't publish your avatar in search listings, you're not actually hidden. It's just that if people are looking for you, they need to know your full name. You're not going to come up in an incidental search that only includes part of your name. Only friends and groups know I'm online. This allows only people on your friends list to see if you are online. Linden scripting language has a function that will still show your true online status to anyone, so don't get a false sense of security from this. They can still see that if they're using a HUD or a very old version of Phoenix. Not in current Phoenix. It's not permitted to be in a viewer anymore. Only friends and groups can call or IM me. When this is enabled, it allows only friends and groups to be able to IM or call you. We don't recommend using this. Well, okay. There are times when you might need it. Like if you're being stalked by somebody or harassed by somebody who keeps creating new alts to harass you with, and you keep muting them and they keep making new ones and they won't leave you alone. If it's an emergency kind of situation like that, then yeah, you've got a very good reason to use this. However, the reason that we don't recommend this under normal circumstances is that you may need to get in touch with people who aren't on your friends list more often than you realize. So, for instance, there was this one day when I got an IM from a user at around 10:30 in the morning who said, "I need help with my Firestorm, are you there? Can you help me?" And I responded, "Yes, I'm here, what's the problem?" Or something like that. And she never responded to that. A couple of hours later, I got an IM from her again saying, "Hi, I'm on Firestorm, I need help, can you help me?" And again I responded, and she didn't answer my IM again. Several hours later, I heard from her yet again, and this time she sounded kind of frantic. She's like, "I've been trying to get in touch with people all day, please can you help me with Firestorm?" And then it clicked. And I tried dropping her a note card saying, "Can you uncheck this setting?" But SL was being a jerk that day, and she wasn't able to view the note card. She just IM'd back, "I can't see your note card." So at that point, I looked up her profile, saw that she had a partner. I IM'd her partner saying, "Please can you tell her to turn this off so that we can talk and I can help her with her problem." And that finally got through. So yeah, if you ever turn this on for any reason, and hopefully you're only doing it for an emergency purpose, please remember to turn it off when it's not needed anymore, or if you're trying to get in touch with somebody who's not on your friends list, because your IM will go through, but it's going to be as if you muted the person. You would be able to see their chat if you were standing in the same place and talking in local, but you won't be able to see any IMs from them. So yeah, that's my spiel on that one. Don't use that unless you have to. Switch off microphone when ending calls. Turns off your microphone when you end a private voice call. This is recommended and enabled by default, and it can save some embarrassment. So, for instance, you're in a private call in a public place, maybe with your sweetie. Maybe you're saying sweet nothings to your sweetie, then all of a sudden your sweetie crashes. But you don't notice because you're into the moment and you're saying all this nice sexy stuff to them. And little do you realize, because you're not paying attention, that for the past 2 minutes you've been saying this sweet sexy stuff to local voice. Because they crashed and you got dumped into local voice all this time. So yeah, have this enabled to prevent something like that from happening. It's a lot less embarrassing if you've been talking to yourself for 2 minutes. Auto accept new inventory items will automatically accept any inventory offers from avatars. Automatically show newly accepted items in inventory will open the inventory window focused on that item when you receive an item. And automatically view note cards, textures, landmarks after accepting will open the note cards, textures, and landmarks after accepting them. If disabling these does not work for you, then there are 2 settings in the debug settings that you can try setting to false. They are show in inventory and show new inventory. Please be very careful in the debug settings, and we recommend always writing down anything that you change in there because it's better than having to try to remember these jargony techno names that all the debug settings have. I'm going to pause for a second because I think there is a question coming. When you're, away isn't going to affect things coming in. It's busy mode that would prevent things from coming in. But away mode, when you're offline, note cards. Well, since this is about whether they open up or note cards are going to get to you when you're offline. There isn't an auto reject. What this affects is whether you're actually going to receive a prompt saying that announcing that this thing came in versus it entering your inventory silently. That's what it does. So it's not going to. So having this off doesn't cause note cards to be rejected, whether you're online or offline. So since it's only going to affect that prompt, it actually only does anything if you're online. Does that make sense? In fact, the way that inventory acceptance works, right? Yeah, that's going to happen unless unless they're actually capping out and not getting to you. But there's no way to stop note cards from getting to you. Create particle effects. Upon giving inventory objects to other avatars, this will show a swirl of particles around you when you give things to others. If you don't like those particles, turn it off. Show my favorite landmarks at login via Start at drop-down menu. This allows any landmarks saved in your favorites folder to be accessed from the login screen, allowing you to log in directly to any landmark in your favorites. Remember back on the very first tab we covered when I said to tick the Show on Login checkbox? This is the feature that relates to that. So let's say that you don't just want the options of logging in at home or last location or something that you have to remember how to type in. Let's say that you want to be able to log into a number of other places that you often go to. If you have those places in your favorites folder and thus in your favorites bar at the top of the screen if you have that enabled, then they will also show on the login screen with this checked. It can be pretty nifty. So chat logs. Here you can enable and disable saving chat logs as well as add timestamps and or dates. Save nearby chat logs on my computer, which may cause lag just because you're giving your computer a lot of work to do. And that's the way computers work. The more it's doing, the slower it's going to be doing most things. Enable this to log local chat. Save IM logs on my computer. Enable this to log IMs. This one is enabled by default. Add timestamp to each line in chat logs. Enabled by default. If enabled, each line in chat logs will have a timestamp prepended. Show seconds in chat and log timestamps. Pretty self-explanatory, but one thing that I'll mention, even though that's self-explanatory, is that this is the one here that will affect what's going on in your chat in world as well as in your chats. So if you want to show those seconds, they're not just going to be in chat. That'll do that, as well as in your logs. Add date stamp to log file name. If this is enabled, log file names will have the current date included in the file name. Now, we're going to say not recommended, but I'll say that there are people who are fans of this. So if you do like it, feel free to use it. However, there are a bunch of caveats attached to it, which is why we say not recommended. In other words, not recommended unless you are aware of those and you accept those. So first off, adding the date stamp to the log file name will break chat history in the sense that, you know, that little chat history button in nearby chat and IM tabs, it's the icon that looks like a bunch of horizontal lines. Ordinarily, if you click that, then you'll get the chat history up for that IM. That is actually your chat log itself. But if you're adding a date stamp to those, then it's not going to update, because the viewer will be looking for the one that has a very specific name attached, and that name can't have a date in it, or else it's not going to be found. So that's not going to update if you are adding date stamps. It will be, for the most part, useless. You also won't get that grayed out end of the last conversation showing in your IMs if you're adding date stamps to log file names. It will also make logs more complicated to search in many cases, so because your local chat will be saved in a different file daily, and your IMs will be saved in a different file monthly. So if all of that is cool with you and you still want the date stamps, then go for it. But yeah, lots and lots of warnings attached to that. Lots of stuff is incompatible with that. Manage block and mute list. People and or objects you have blocked. This brings the block/mute list up. Any questions on this tab? I don't see any typing. So moving on to Look At subtab. Show Look At. This is the global toggle to enable the Look At crosshairs. This is what indicate a camera's focus point, which of course is not necessarily where a person's camera actually is, because it only takes a wee bit of cam foo to be able to put your focal point someplace and make your camera go someplace else. So take it with a grain of salt. If you're showing Look At beacons and it looks like somebody's been perving you for half an hour, they may or may not be. It's quite possible that their camera is someplace completely different. So no drama, no stress. Just Look At. Show names for Look At targets. In this drop-down menu, you can select whether to show avatar names on the Look At crosshairs, and your options are none, complete name, display name, legacy name, and username. And as we covered on the first tab, the difference between legacy name and username is just a matter of format, not a matter of what information is actually being conveyed. Don't show me my Look At target. If enabled, this option inhibits the display of your own Look At crosshairs on your screen. Don't send my actual camera target hints to others, prevents your camera focus point from showing to others. So if you don't want other people to see your Look At beacon, this is the one to check. Bonus to checking this is actually something that we've heard from Linden's. It will, broadcasting your Look At beacon actually increases sim lag. So checking the privacy option here of not sending your camera target hints to others actually is better for lag if that's not getting sent out. Also on the lag topic, viewing other people's look-at beacons shouldn't affect sim lag, but it will affect your own performance to a greater or lesser degree. Not as much as many graphic settings, most likely, but nonetheless, when you're rendering other people's look-at beacons, you're causing a bit more lag for yourself because you're rendering more on your screen. So if it's something that you can sacrifice, it's certainly not going to hurt, and it may help to not view other people's look-at beacons. Don't set any camera target hints even on my own screen. This prevents your avatar's head from moving to face a point your camera is focused on in your own view. This head movement is not necessarily visible to others, whether or not this option is enabled. So this is so if you don't want to see your own head focused when you or moving to look at what you're focused on, you can check that. Don't send my selection target hints prevents your selection point from showing to others. If you enable this and have your selection beam enabled, your beam will show as pointing to your crotch area. So this has to do with your particle beam, the direction of it, not the presence of it actually, but the direction of your particle beam, as well as, you know, that broken arm look if you're trying to edit something and that you're not in a good position to be editing. So if you don't want your arm to be lifting and moving when you're editing something, then have this ticked. However, as it says, if you tick this but you don't disable your selection beam itself, then your selection beam will still be there, but it'll be pointing at you. And since your center is at your crotch, that's where it's going to be pointing. It's going to make it look like you're editing your crotch. Fun times, right? Any questions on this tab? No, head turning when simply moving the mouse is affected by the sliders on Pref's Firestorm avatar. Ask again after the class if you need me to repeat that, since it's elsewhere in the Prefs. No problem. Auto response subtab. Oh, Ed, yes? Oh, okay. So we've got all these question marks in the viewer, which are really useful to I think Delinda's question marks reminded Ed about the question marks. So as we go through the preferences, you'll notice that there are question marks in the corners of every tab. These show up in lots and lots of other UI windows. If you ever have any questions about anything that's on a tab or a window that has a question mark in it, clicking that question mark will get you to a help browser on that. It's basically our wiki pages. So you're going to be seeing the same information on the wiki. In many cases, it's going to be the same info that you see in tooltips if you hover your cursor long enough over those items in the prefs, but in other cases there will be more info there. So, so those are a quick and handy way of getting to the applicable wiki pages if you want more information about something that you're looking at. And back to the class material. We are now on the auto response subtab. Yeah, you know what, the thing is, I think a lot of people mentally screen out those question marks just because they show up in all sorts of applications everywhere and don't always have very useful things to say. But we like to think that there are useful things to say in here. It's the same stuff we put on the wiki. So automatic response for unavailable/busy online status. You can set different auto response messages for different online statuses. So this is for if you go into busy mode, which is now called unavailable. enter the text for the unavailable mode in COM menu, online status. So you put your text in here, what you want people to see when you're busy, and then you turn it on in COM, online status, unavailable/busy. Automatic response for the ordinary, regular, standard auto response online status. So you enter this text here, and then if you want to turn it on, go to COM, online status, auto respond. Automatic response for auto response to non-friends online status. This is for if you want a different message for your friends and for your non-friends, or if you don't need to send that auto response to your friends, just to your non-friends. So you put the text in here, and getting familiar, when you turn it on, you go to COM, online status, auto respond to non-friends. Send auto response to muted avatars. Yes, you can do this too. Check this box if you want to auto-respond to avatars that you have muted. It will not unmute them when they receive the message. But if you do want to use this, it can be handy because otherwise they may never know that they're muted. Because you can't actually tell them, because if you tell them directly, then you unmute them, right? So you can do it this way. You can say, you're muted. I can't hear what you're saying. La 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 la. I can't hear you. Or whatever you want to put there. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put that in my auto response to muted avatars. I don't have very many people muted. So enter the text here for the auto response to muted avatars. And there's Ed's auto response for muted avatars. Are there any questions on this tab? Yeah, I'm totally going to write in, la la la, I can't hear you. Yes, the blocked is the same as mute. Thank you, I missed the question. Looks like there's more typing going on, so more of a pause. I'm drinking water. It covers ears, yes, it covers ears. I'll put that in too. I don't know the actual character count, but there is a max to it. I'm going to estimate probably 256. We are in agreement, it is probably 256, but well, if somebody else can confirm a different number, let us know. And our last tab of the day is the Colors tab. You can click on the color boxes to choose custom colors for a whole bunch of stuff, mostly text, but also selection effects, particle beam. There's a place for fancy particle beams. This is for a simple particle beam. If you want to change it to some other color other than white, you can change that there. Mini-map. Here you can choose the colors to use on the mini-map rings that indicate local chat and shout range. So, in case you didn't know, you can actually make your mini-map, ask after the class where to do it if you don't know yet, but you can create rings on your mini-map that sort of circle your avatar's dot. One shows chat range, one shows shout range, and this is where you can change the colors of them if you don't like the defaults. UI text colors. Most of the choices here are going to make sense to you, but others might not be so obvious. So, system applies to messages from SL. For instance, you'll be getting radar info and online-offline notification info in chat in whatever color you put there. Others refers to other avatars' text, not your own. Objects is text from objects, such as this note card reader that I'm using. So some of you are seeing it in green, some of you are seeing it in brown, I think, still, unless you changed it. Other colors, depending on your skins, really. Chat headers are the names that you see in chat. Direct applies to object-generated text that is only visible to you, and owner applies to object-generated text from objects you own that is only visible to you. Then we've got the two script dialog boxes. BG is background, FG is foreground, and so if you want your script dialogues to be a different color, you can change those there. name tag and bubble chat, and console opacity. The farther left the slider, the more transparent the floater will be. So if you don't like inactive, if you don't want those to be totally medium, you can make them more opaque or more transparent. Floating window opacity. Again, the farther left the slider, the more transparent the floater will be. If you didn't notice, you can also change the color of the name tag bubble chat console background there if you want. Anyway, floating window opacity. So if you don't want your inactive windows, for instance, to be totally see-through, turn up the slider and make it more opaque. I use it at 95 personally. Show script dialogues always on opaque background. Enabled, this displays script dialogues as opaque windows. With it disabled, their transparency will be determined by the active or inactive floating window opacity sliders. Show group notices always on opaque background. This should I think that's typo. Display group notices on opaque background, but it's subject to skin variation. Oh, it's not a typo. My brain was reading the words wrong. Should display group notices on opaque background. Override pie menu background color and opacity. This is our last item of the class. Last but not least, this is not a critical feature or anything, but it can be kind of fun. You can recolor your pie menu. So if you want to do that, if you want to customize the color, the one on the box on the left will recolor the background of your pie. The box on the right will recolor the highlighting, the whatever color as you use your mouse around your pie. Opacity, of course, will make the pie itself more or less opaque, and fade out is how much of the pie is getting highlighted. So I like to do that. I haven't done it yet since my last clean install, but last I was using purple and brown. They went better together than you might expect. Are there any questions? Go right ahead. Movement window. The movement controls that should be controlled by the same slider as the others for when it's active or inactive. It's not going to be controlled independently. And looks like there's another question on its way. Because I see your typing indicators, wahahaha, and maybe not, so. Okay, cool. So if there are no other questions on this tab, then I want to thank you both personally and on behalf of the Phoenix team for coming to the class and for using our viewer. The users are the reason that our viewers are as popular as they are. You all deserve the credit, so thanks a whole lot for putting in the time to attend this class. And now we go into general Q&As, so if there are questions on topic, off topic, or anywhere in between, please just go right ahead and ask them.